What is up, guys? It is morning time. There is a crispness in the air. It feels like fall around here, at least in the morning this week. But crispness is not the only thing in the air around here. Yeah, we got some love in the air going on around here. Today, we are going to be talking about goats again, goat care, and specifically breeding goats. So what you need to look for, signs you need to look for, ways to do it, meaning like, do you keep a buck, do you not keep a buck, just all of the fun things like that. So if you are interested in getting into goats, or maybe you've already gotten into goats but you haven't gotten to the point where you're breeding them yet, then make sure you stay tuned, because there's going to be a lot of just hints and tips that we did not know our first time through and left us second guessing a lot. So by knowing these things, you can eliminate some of the guessing. Now, unless you just go out and do like a pregnancy test, there's not going to really be any surefire guarantee way, but there are some things that would be, I would put you at like 97% sure that your does are pregnant. All right, so the first thing I want to touch on is, do you keep a buck or do you not keep a buck? I'm gonna set you guys up right here and we are just gonna talk. We at Say Mojo Homestead choose to not keep a buck. The main reason that we choose not to do that is because you have to have a separate pen for them. We do try to maximize our space out here and minimize the amount of, I'm gonna say, damage we do on our wooded area, or what we left as wooded. If you've watched any of our other videos, you know that we try to keep our animals more in the woods, because most farm animals, their native habitat is gonna be wooded area. It also allows them to have that shade and that coolness during our hot summers here in South Carolina. So we really do try to be wise about how many pens we have kind of set up. So all that being said, if you have a buck, you've got to have a separate pen for them. If you don't know this, if you are extremely new to goats, or you're just trying to get out and find out all the ins and outs with them, goats will cycle. Now, depending on the breed, they will cycle either at a certain time of year or all year long. We keep mini Nubians and Nigerian dwarfs. Both of those breeds will cycle all year long on pretty much a monthly rotation. Not keeping a buck on the farm, you don't ever have to worry about an accidental pregnancy. And yes, they do happen. I have heard where the goats actually bred through a fence. If they share a fence, it is possible. Just saying. Don't know how, don't ask questions. Just know that is possible. So that's another thing with the pen. If you are gonna have a buck, you wanna make sure those pens are separated, more than just one single fence line. Whew. Oh yeah, there's our handsome guy. Right there. The crispness of fall and love are not the only two things in the air this morning. There's also a funk in the air. And that brings me to my next point and reason why we don't keep a buck here on the property is because they are very pungent. There's definitely a musky smell that bucks will put off. And let me tell you, since we've had him here every single day this week that I've walked out, I can smell it, whether he's like right there or not. So, not necessarily a bad thing, just something to think about, because it is going to be a smell that you add. I mean, we keep pigs, obviously they bring in some smells too. So those are the two things that you really need to think about if you are considering keeping bucks, is separate pen and separate housing, and just the smell that they cause. Really look into it before you just say, yeah, we're going to get a buck because we want to breed, because there are other options, which is you use somebody else's. There are plenty of farms out there that will offer studding services, and everybody's going to do it a little bit different. Most of the time there is a fee. Usually it's fairly nominal. Sometimes it could just be pick of the litter. Sometimes it is a monetary fee. So just look around, do that. We actually really lucked up, I'll say, and we got our goats from Goat Daddy's farm up in Elgin, South Carolina. and we keep a closed herd, which means he lets us use his bucks. So what we'll do each year is we will go coordinate with him and bring one of his bucks to our farm, let them breed with him, and then Jason takes the buck back. Last year, he actually took 2 of our babies, and I will just say, a little humble brag here, that one of them that he took is his absolute favorite on his farm. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, time for the fun part. Now, I can't show you everything involved with breeding, but I'm gonna show you as much as I can, and we got a lot of good footage. I wanted to give a visual the best we can, and also talk through it and explain what's going on, because that's gonna be your best learning tool. All right, so this is when we brought him home. This is the same buck we used last year. So one thing with goats, as is the case with most animals, they are super sensitive to each other's pheromones. So he can tell right away that there are females in the area. And so he had no problem walking straight into that pen, even though it was an unfamiliar place for him. The females will come out, you'll see in a second, and start checking him out as well. Now, it just so happened that 3 of our females were in full-on heat when we brought him in. We did not realize that. We had just not really been paying attention, because honestly, we thought that we still had a couple of days. But as you will see, that really doesn't matter. If they are in full heat, it will take no time. They don't have to warm up to him or anything like that. If they're not in heat, you are going to have that battle for just the hierarchy. They're gonna have to establish their rank with him and with each other kind of all over again. But no worries, goats do it. They settle in, they'll be fine. When they go into heat, all that goes out the window. They could care less. Those goats, both female and male, have one thing on their mind. So what he's doing right now is just kind of checking them out to see who is in heat. That look right there, that's kind of what you're looking for. And I have heard mixed things on it, but I think the general consensus is when the goats do that, that is a sign that your females are in heat. Now, male goats have glands on the inside of their lips, which help them to sort of detect even more so whether or not a female is in heat. So you'll see this, if they're in heat, the males will start to mount them. It does take longer than that. That is not a successful breeding, which, as I said before, we will not be showing that on this video. But that is kind of what you're looking for in that. It does take longer. You're gonna want them to be mounted a little bit longer than that. And later on in here, you will see kind of a almost guaranteed surefire sign that it did take. So this is Majesty, and she, I don't think, was quite in heat. So he's talking to her right now. He's chatting them up. They make all kinds of weird noises when they are talking to each other, but they are very vocal with each other. All right, so that sign right there is the sign that everything happened as it was supposed to, that arched back. It's almost like they're going to the bathroom, but they don't squat. So 2 things to look for in your does are tail wagging. That is a sign that they are in heat. You'll see a lot of that going on in this video. The other thing is when you bring the buck in, they will present themselves if they're ready, like Esther is doing, who is the black and white one. They'll stand with their back to them with their legs slightly apart. And that is kind of like telling the buck, hey, I'm here, I'm ready, and is trying to get him to do his thing with them. So I hope that wasn't too much thrown at you really quick. Hopefully you were able to get that. Animals, when they're in heat, they're gonna go at it. So, you know, we can't time that out really well as far as a video goes and explaining it. There are some other things I did want to talk about that just are easier to do with you guys face to face. You may have noticed that our youngest doe, Frost, had to think about her name there, who was born last year, who was born at the beginning of this year, is also in there with them. We are gonna breed her. She is still very young. She's sexually mature, but she is still not full grown. That's okay. We did check it out, make sure, because I got a little bit nervous because she does still have a good bit of growing to do, but it is fine. It is a good thing to go ahead and breed them. One thing you want to do, if you can, is breed your does before they hit 2 years old. Ideally, within that first year. The reason is because, like Frost, her body is still developing, and so it allows those hips have a little more flexibility to move around, to expand is what I mean by that, when they give birth, which in the long term will help to minimize complications in birth later on. If you wait until a doe is 2 years or older, it's not a guarantee or definite thing, but they could have a little more trouble getting their hips to spread apart when it is time to give birth. So a couple of more things. Even though we saw him breed with our 3 original does, we do want to continue to keep him for at least a month. If you're borrowing someone's buck, you want to make sure you have him through the next cycle period, because obviously, like, if your does are pregnant, they're not going to cycle again. If they do, it will give him another opportunity to impregnate them, which is the ultimate goal. Hopefully it will happen the first go round. The other thing is Majesty, the bigger one. She did come into heat like within the next day of us shooting that video, and she is bigger. She's bigger than him. It can still happen. It will still happen. Sometimes it can pose a little bit of a problem and you can't get the buck to successfully impregnate her the first go round. The first year we did this, we actually used that buck as well, but he was a lot smaller, and it took 3 months before he could successfully breed the 3 does that we had at that time, because he was just that much smaller. So there are some things that you can do. You can back your doe up next to like a step or a sidewalk that's higher or something like that, and bring the buck up to her so that he is actually on higher ground. We've never done that. We just kind of let them figure it out, and they will eventually figure it out and make it happen, because again, both parties are really wanting to breed, because that's just what they do instinctively. If you do have 2 different size animals, the buck always needs to be the smaller of the 2, because if the buck is larger, it could produce babies that are too big for that mama to give birth to in a healthy way. And that's the case with any animal. The last thing is, a lot of people want to know, how long are they pregnant for? And that is, for goats, generally 140 to 145 days. No, that does vary some with the breed, but for the most part, it's right in there with that 145 days. Longer gestation periods can be up to 150 days. The shorter end is 140 days. So if you're wanting to plan this out so that they give birth at a certain time, then that's what you're going to go off of. And that's what we do. We choose to have them pregnant during the holidays, so that like Thanksgiving through Christmas, we don't have to milk them, because we do dry them off about halfway through their pregnancy. We make sure that they are completely dried off, meaning they're not producing milk anymore. And that way it frees us up to be able to go visit family on the holidays, to do our traditional stuff without having that extra farm chore. So that would put them giving birth kind of January, February timeframe. Now, South Carolina, we don't have really cold winters, so that is a benefit to us. Here, it's a little bit harder on animals to give birth in the summertime, because our heats are so much more extreme than our cold weather months. So that is all that we have for you today. I hope that this was informative. I hope it helped you guys out. Give it a like if it did. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments below. We would be happy to get back to you on that and help you along. Breeding is an exciting time on a homestead. You're producing offspring, and then babies are even more so. And so, yeah, have fun with it if you haven't done it already. If you have, share your experiences. Everybody's experience is different. Everybody has their own opinions. I really do try to present a lot of these things as opinions and just present the way that we do it, because there are a lot of different ways to do it, and not one way is right for everyone. So please feel free to put that in here as well. Thank you guys. Thank you for subscribing if you've already done that. We like to say welcome to the family. Welcome back. If you have not done that, we would love for you to hit that subscribe button to join us along on this journey. So thank you guys again. We really do appreciate each and every one of you. Hope you guys have a great week and be blessed.